The UN Security Council addressed the situation in Haiti given the alarming levels of violence in the Caribbean island nation. Brazilian President Luis Inacio da Silva urged to promote peace initiative to put an end to the conflict between Russia and Ukraine during an official visit to Spain. And in Sudan, health authorities have confirmed that the numbers of people killed as a result of the armed conflict between the army and paramilitary groups has topped 500. Hello, welcome to From the South. I'm Luis Alberto Matos from teleSUR studios in Havana, Cuba. We begin with the news. The UN Security Council addressed on Wednesday at its quarterly meeting the situation in Haiti, given the alarming levels of violence in the Caribbean island nation. The statements coming from the United Nations body came a day after the report of another series of lethal episodes in Port-au-Prince. According to the UN Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs in the capital commune of Cité Soleil, alone, clashes between rival gangs from April 14th to the 19th left at least 70 people dead, including 18 women and 2 children. In a recent report, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres warned that with the high number of deaths and the increase in areas under the control of armed gangs, insecurity in the capital has reached levels comparable to those of countries in armed conflict. Maria Isabel Salvador, United Nations envoy to the country for a Security Council meeting, said that gang violence in Haiti is spreading at an alarming rate in areas that were once considered quite safe.
Since the last briefing to the Council by my predecessor in January, gang criminality has grown. Gang violence is expanding at an alarming rate in areas previously considered relatively safe in Port-au-Prince and outside the capital. The horrific violence in gang-ridden areas, including sexual violence, particularly against women and girls, is emblematic of the terror afflicting much of Haiti's population.
Ecuadorian President Guillermo Lasso will miss on Wednesday to testify before the Oversight Committee of the National Assembly as part of the impeachment process against him for the crime of embezzlement. The President will be represented by his lawyer, Edgar Neira, and the legal secretary of the presidency, Juan Pablo Ortiz, who announced that Lasso will only be present when he must make his defense argument before the plenary of the legislature. This Wednesday, the legislators requesting the trial will also present their arguments. The Ecuadorian opposition accuses Lasso of the crime of embezzlement for alleged irregularities in a contract between the state-owned Flota Petrolera Ecuadoriana and the company Amazonas Tankers. The United Workers Front, made up of Ecuador's central unions, called this Wednesday for a national mobilization in the framework of the International Workers' Day on May 1st in defense of employment and against President Guillermo Lasso. The United Workers Front reaffirmed its commitment to policies in favor of employment and workers, fair wages, and the protection of vulnerable people, and criticized the National Assembly for not having approved the Organic Labor Code, with proposals to make the country's labor market fairer and more equitable. They also rejected the impositions of the International Monetary Fund, with which the government of Guillermo Lasso is in the middle of talks to request a new loan. In the document, the Workers' Front demanded better public policies, a budget for health, education, and social justice from the government. In Ecuador, the Attorney General's office reported on Tuesday that the death toll from the landslide that occurred on March 26 in Alausi, Chimborazo province rose to 848. According to local authorities, rescue forces found another body corresponding to a male victim. The General Secretariat of Risk indicates that there are still about 40 bodies to be recovered under rubble and tons of earth. The landslide covered an area of 24.3 hectares and left about 1,000 victims who have had to leave their homes, 163 houses affected and 57 destroyed. Rescue efforts continue in the area, although there is a danger of new landslides due to cracks in the upper part of the elevation. In Paraguay, the Superior Tribunal of Electoral Justice will publish on Thursday a regulation for the collection of fines for Paraguayans who failed to vote in Sunday's general elections, reports today the newspaper Últimas Noticias. The penalty for failing to vote is 98,000 guaranis, about $13. Although specialists are working so that the method of paying it will be give enforceably to the procedure, said the leader of the Electoral Justice, Jorge Bogarin. The national and departmental elections on Sunday summoned 4,782,940 voters who will vote in 1,140 locals with 12,171 polling stations. Some 9,000 candidates aspire in these consultations to positions in the different governmental and legislative instances, according to the tribunal's website. The appointment will elect the new President of the Republic for the 2023-2028 period, the Vice President, 45 senators, 80 deputies, 17 governors, and 257 members of the departmental boards. Let's take a short break, but first remember you can follow us on TikTok at teleSUR English, in which you will be able to see news in different formats, news updates, and much more. All the stories coming up. Stay with us. Welcome back from the South. As part of his official visit to Spain, Brazilian President Luis Ignacio Lula da Silva met with Spanish Prime Minister Pedro Sanchez at the Palace of La Moncloa in Madrid. The two leaders met at the official headquarters of the Spanish government and signed cooperation agreements on innovation, universities, and employment matters. The leaders pointed out that Spain's 6-month presidency of the European Union coincides with the Brazilian presidency of Mercosur, and therefore they consider it will be an opportunity to make progress on the trade deal between the EU and the South American bloc Mercosur, reached in 2019 and is still under negotiation. The European Union on Wednesday presented a long-awaited proposal to reform legislation regulating medicines to make them cheaper, avoid shortages, and boost the production of new antibiotics. During a press conference, European Union Health Commissioner Stella Kyriakides emphasized that in the last decades, reports of shortages of medicines, including antibiotics, have soared into the tens of thousands. Kyriakides also pointed out that under the proposal, companies will have to notify potential shortages earlier and have stock-out prevention plans for their medicines. While the European Commission aims to bring down the cost of medicines, it doesn't have the power to set prices in the Union, as that is the prerogative of national governments who negotiate with pharmaceutical groups.
Supplies, and we have seen over the last 10 years how the reports for medicine shortages have really skyrocketed. Whilst patients in the Western and bigger member states today have access to 90% of newly approved medicines, in the eastern part of the EU and smaller member states, this number is as low as 10%. And there are EU citizens who have to wait anywhere from 4 months to more than 2 to 3 years for these medicines. And this is truly unacceptable.
And at least one person has died and 600 others have been left homeless after a fire broke in the Russian region of Ervalovsk. According to authorities, the flames, which started Tuesday, reached more than 9,000 square meters in the village of Sosva, affecting over 200 houses and buildings in 5 villages in the region. According to the investigation committee of the Russian Federation for the region, 2 criminal inquiries have been opened in connection to the fire. According to sources, authorities are trying to determine whether there was negligence on the part of officials who failed to implement proper safety measures during the current fire risk season. The fire started Tuesday in a sawmill and it quickly spread to other towns due to wind gusts and the large amount of dry vegetation in the area. In Cyprus, a large fire broke out Wednesday afternoon at the Russian Center of Science and Culture in Nicosia, the capital, following an attack with a Molotov cocktail. Center Director Alina Radchenko told reporters that the attack targeted the part of the building where offices are located. Although the Russian diplomatic mission to Cyprus said the fire has been extinguished and reported no casualties, emergency services personnel continue to search for any potential victims trapped inside the building. Radchenko said that this attack may come in harmful retaliation from a successful pro-Russian work carried out by the center. She said this is in response to their firm position on the fact that more and more Cypriots are supporting Russia, and she cast suspicion on the pro-Ukrainian diaspora and Western embassies. Turkey's President Recep Tayyip Erdogan, facing the toughest election of his 20 years in office, cancelled campaign events scheduled for Wednesday after falling ill during a live television broadcast on Tuesday night. On the social network Twitter, The head of state told in a thread that he will rest at home on medical advice and added that his condition is a minor inconvenience due to so much busy work. The Turkish president was scheduled to give rallies in 3 different Turkish cities on Wednesday, but will be replaced by his vice president Fuat Oktay. Erdogan interrupted an interview on Tuesday night after suffering from an upset stomach. As the 15th edition of the BRICS summit approaches, the alliance strives for expansion with the arrival of several African countries in particular. This was confirmed by Anil Soukal, South African ambassador to the BRICS, in a recent interview, who affirmed that 13 countries had officially submitted applications to join the group of emerging economies, specifying that this announced expansion of the organization will be at the center of discussions at the next BRICS summit, scheduled for June 2nd and 3rd, 2023 in Cape Town, South Africa. For the moment, only a few names of African countries wishing to join BRICS have been revealed, including Algeria, Egypt, Nigeria, already a member of BRICS MNA that fosters Mexico, Nigeria, and Saudi Arabia, as well as Sudan and Zimbabwe. This extension intends to reinforce the importance of the economic alliance on the international scene, comprising Brazil, Russia, and South America, with a contribution that will reach 31.5% of world gross domestic product in 2023 compared to 30.7% for the G7. The BRICS are considered to be today's major emerging powers. teleSUR English continues to grow. You can now tune in from 33 different African countries with Tarsat, dial 461 and enjoy a Latin American alternative broadcast. One fun short break and we'll be right back. Don't go away. Welcome back from the south. In Sudan, Health Ministry says the number of people killed in clashes between the army and paramilitary groups in Khartoum has topped 500. Following the new toll, Sudan's Health Ministry said it had contacted chiefs of the army and rapid support forces and asked them to stay away from hospitals and clinics. Authorities said the clashes in Khartoum had left about 4,200 people injured. Earlier, the World Health Organization said that 61% of medical facilities are closed and only 16% of hospitals or polyclinics are functioning across the country. The situation in Sudan has recently deteriorated due to political disagreements between the president of the Sudanese Sovereign Council, General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan, and the vice president of that body and head of the Sudanese Rapid Support Forces, Mohamed Hamdan Dagalo, on April 15th. The two sides clashed near a military base in Merowe and in Khartoum. On Wednesday, the World Health Organization said it was assessing the threat posed to public health after fighters in Sudan occupied a national laboratory holding samples of deadly diseases.
WHO is also concerned about the occupation of the Central Public Health Lab by one of the parties in the conflict. Technicians no longer have access to the laboratory, which means the lab is no longer able to perform its normal diagnostic and reference function. We're also concerned that those occupying the lab could be accidentally exposed to pathogens stored there.
We are aware of some samples of pathogens that are being stored in the lab: measles, COVID, so SARS-CoV-2, TB, particularly MDR-TB, cholera, and vaccine-derived poliovirus. But the assessment is ongoing to better understand what the public health risk might be with those, and of course the risk as well of having untrained personnel or untrained individuals in the lab mishandling some of these samples, potentially leading to themselves exposing themselves to those infections is also a risk.
We continue with the 5th edition of the ALBA sports game. Venezuelan athlete Maria Yekeres became the queen of this event. On Tuesday concluded the swimming competitions at the United Nations Park in Caracas, with swimmer Maria Yekeres becoming the queen of the competition, closing her performance in a brilliant way. Talented athlete finished the tournament by winning 8 gold medals during the event. The 70-year-old Venezuelan swimmer triumphed at the 100, 200, and 400 meters freestyle. Likewise, Yegres also won at the 4x400 and 4x200 relays. In the 200 meters butterfly, as well as in the 4x100 meters freestyle mixed relay, and in the 4x100 meters combined relay. And we continue with the games in Venezuela with the victory of Nicaragua against St. Vincent and the Grenadines by 3-0 in a new match day of men indoor volleyball at the ALBA Games. After a very close match until the end, Nicaragua defeated St. Vincent and the Grenadines with a final score of 3-0 after 3 sets where the Nicaraguans patiently overcame their opponents and took the first set 25-12. Later on, St. Vincent and the Grenadines tried to even the score but ended up giving in to their opponents once again to put on the board the 25-13 that gave Nicaragua the confidence to win 21-21 in the final, 25-21 in the final set. Now, with this victory, Nicaraguans are waiting for the results of the match between Venezuela Team A and Venezuela Team B to win the bronze medal. Venezuela's under-23 white basketball team made its debut in the ALBA Games with a comfortable 93-37 victory over St. Kitts and Nevis. The defensive work of the Venezuelan team made a difference in the first quarter, which allowed them to dominate the first half 34-10. In the second quarter, the white team extended the lead to 52 points over 34. For the third quarter, the Venezuelan team worked united once again, making their rival lose their attack and prevented St. Kitts and Nevis from scoring more than 10 points in each quarter. In the third and last quarter, Venezuela left the score 93-37. The most outstanding player of the white team was Raymond Roca, who scored 16 points. More than half of the countries participating in the ALBA Sports Games countries are Caribbean islands. They arrived in Venezuela as part of the alliance seeking closer ties with Latin America. Let's see.
The Caribbean countries arrived in Caracas to participate in the 5th ALBA Games, and although they do not have such large or experienced delegations, they have given their best in disciplines such as volleyball, table tennis, fencing, swimming, and basketball.
It's very good. I think we should do more of this because the ALBA countries such as Cuba, Venezuela, Nicaragua have a higher level than us. If we can continue practicing with them, our level will increase. I think the level of the sport that we have seen here in Caracas is of a higher level than what we are used to in St. Vincent. We have competed favorably, and it is a lesson for us to return home as a building platform.
They agree on the possibilities for sporting development that competing with more advanced teams represents.
Well, I'm very excited to be here in the first place. I must thank the Venezuelan government for giving us this opportunity to participate in this competition and to participate in Antigua and Barbuda. We are very excited. This is the first course. The students we have here are new, and this is a good experience for them.
They also appreciate the effort to take out the ALBA Sport Games again. It has been a challenge after 12 years.
I think the ALBA Games are very effective in assisting countries in the development process. I think these ALBA Games are well organized. I'm very impressed with the organization.
Meeting in sport is a way to resume the paths of friendship between the whole Caribbean and Latin American area, and to dynamize the relations between the countries.
These ALBA Games are part of the Petro-Caribe agreement between our country and the President of Venezuela. Most of the Caribbean countries are very united. We fight on the court when it comes to the volleyball, but off the court, we are friends until.
The teams from the Caribbean islands will continue to strive to add medals to the final medal tally at the close of the event on Saturday, April 29th.
And after 6 days of competition, it's the 5th edition of the ALBA Games. Venezuela so far leads the medals list with 98 golds, 104 silvers, and 82 bronzes. Cuba is second by nations with 30 gold, 19 silvers, and 16 bronzes, while Nicaragua accumulated 5 golds, 14 silvers, and 40 bronzes as a third place. Bolivia ranks fourth with 5 gold, 1 silver, and 4 bronze. St. Vincent and the Grenadines managed to enter the top 5 with 1 bronze medal. We have come to the end of this news brief. You can find these and many other stories on our website at telesurenglish.net. You can also join us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Telegram, and TikTok. For TeleSUR English, I'm Luis Alberto Matos. Thank you for watching.